Hi, I welcome you to our second segment. I'm here with Earl Labonte, who's our Maintenance Service Manager, and I hope I didn't butcher the last name. That was that bad. Earl and I, he's been a delight because he's been kind of showing me around the city. You know, when you're new in Lebanon, I think you need a guide, because I think that sometimes I still don't find the right place, and I don't think I'm going to get over that for a while. So we went on a trip, and it's fascinating to me, because I've never seen it anywhere else, that Lebanon is responsible for cemeteries. And Earl, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And the reason I bring this up is that some people don't realize what the city does, and that there are these really important responsibility of the city that's required of the city, and they certainly are very important to people. Most states where I've come from in the past, New York, Minnesota, Kansas, Colorado, out in the Dakotas, had where the private associations, companies who operated cemeteries, non-profit groups would, sometimes it would be churches, would take care of cemeteries. And it wouldn't be a municipal function, but apparently in New Hampshire it is a municipal function.
Yes, it appears that all the towns and cities in New Hampshire own the cemeteries, and it's governed through the city councils or city or codes and ordinances.
So we end up doing this now. Now, this is only one of many things that Earl does, and this is not, Earl does so many things for us. Now, Earl, how long have you worked for the city?
I've been with the city of Lebanon for almost 15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah, I retired out of the Air Force and came up here.
Mm-hmm. What did you do in the Air Force?
I was a construction equipment operator.
Oh, right. Where were you in the Air Force when you were stationed?
I've been stationed in Panama City, Florida, Miami, Offutt, which is in Omaha, Nebraska, Langley, Virginia, RAF Wethersfield in England, and various other USAFE bases for projects.
Oh, well, thanks for all that great service on behalf of us. How did you ever get back to Lebanon then? It sounds like it's pretty exotic places. I would say Omaha is exotic. I take that back on Omaha, but some of the other places are pretty exotic.
There was a good advertisement for a position in Public Works magazine, and I submitted an application, and this was the results of it. Before
we get into the cemetery stuff, what are the things I think there's some major things you're always involved with. What are the major things you're involved with?
Within the city, you're talking about?
Yeah, within the city.
Well, we do snow removal, winter ops, the mowing of the different areas, city's facilities, parks and grounds, fleet maintenance, all the good stuff.
Yeah, that's, people like that I have the honor of working with, like Earl, from a city manager, they are so instrumental in what we do. But because there's so many, when things start falling apart, I call for Earl. I call for Earl's teams of people that come and help take care of things, and they just face all kinds of. I know there's just things go wrong, and that when they have to come to the rescue of dealing with whatever problem happened in terms of a facility or anything we need in terms of maintenance. It's both inside facilities, outside facilities, the streets, the snow is just incredible. Now the cemeteries, how many cemeteries do we have approximately?
According to the city code, we have 8, but actually there's 10. The reason it says 8 is a couple of them are multiple cemeteries. Off of Dulac Street, you have Mount Calvary and Glenwood. On Mascoma Street, we have Valley Sacred Heart and the Upper Valley Jewish Community Cemetery. Also down further on Old Pine Tree, we have Old Pine Tree Cemetery. Come up into the center of town, we have School Street Cemetery on School Street. We have a cemetery on Great Brook. It's commonly called Cole Cemetery. We also have a cemetery out at by Mascoma Lake called the East Lebanon Cemetery.
But and there's so many of them, and I didn't know they were all there. And Earl and I've been receiving some citizens' concerns about cemeteries and such, and so I mentioned to him about that, and I would like to go actually see the cemeteries, since I'm so unfamiliar with municipalities having the responsibilities for cemeteries. So I wanted to know a little more about it. My wife is also one of those people that aficionados of cemeteries because she likes the history. She likes to I see the sacred place and an important historical place, and seeing where people, you know, all over these years are there, and so so this was kind of fascinating for her and all that. Actually, in the cemeteries, what does the city have to do? Now we own the property. We own the property.
We own the cemeteries, with the exception of the Upper Valley Jewish Cemetery. That one, they own the cemetery themselves. We are responsible for digging the graves, or preparing them for the burials.
Also, so we're actually involved in that part.
We usually do that with the funeral homes, but sometimes people do it privately. We also prep the foundation areas to set the monuments on, and we mow and do what's known as perpetual care, which basically is pick up the leaves, rake, and do scheduled mowings in the cemeteries.
What are the responsibilities of others, individuals, with regard to plots in the cemetery, the stones?
The stones and the markers are all owned by the lot owners, not the city. The maintenance of the markers is their sole responsibility of the lot owners.
The lot owners. Okay.
So if a stone was toppled or it fell over, it's up to the owner to have it corrected. And sometimes it happens, a city employee, while mowing, causes a stone to go over, then the city would repair that stone. We also work with the city's insurance companies if some of the stones are damaged. But for a damaged stone, the property owner has to file the claim. The city cannot file the claim.
So they actually have to file the claim.
Right.
And I think there actually, which I think is just horrendous, anytime there's vandalism anywhere, but there's actually been vandalism in the cemetery, on cemeteries on occasion.
There has. School Street Cemetery was vandalized last year. Over 60 stones were damaged. A citizen did observe the individuals doing it, did call the police. The police were able to apprehend the people that did the damage, and they did take them to court and prosecute.
Well, that's certainly good. You know, I think with that kind of action, I mean, sometimes it's people that maybe they don't have maturity or judgment to do it. Sometimes it's somebody on, you know, basically a lark of really wanting to damage things. I think it really cuts to the wick of some of us. Some people that feel so strongly about these things. I mean, it's really kind of it's a violation. And so people should be like the person's there. They should keep an eye out. If they see somebody that is damaging or vandalizing and doing something inappropriate in that cemetery, they should call the police and contact them, and sooner the better, because they can get in there and find out who did it and hold them accountable. We just have, you know, no tolerance for that sort of thing, and if there's, you know, the city is totally committed to trying to prevent such things from happening. You know, when I look at the cemeteries, you were showing me around and driving me around, there was a lot of activities in the cemeteries, which is kind of surprising. You know, I never thought of it, you know, but it's kind of surprising that there were people who would do things I would think people would be doing in a cemetery, visiting your loved one who passed away, and, you know, provide something by the grave or whatever. But there's other people that are in the cemetery, and there's a lot of activity in the cemetery.
There is. A lot of people use them as ways to get away from their neighborhoods. They go in there and they jog, they run. There are people that do take their dogs into the cemetery and walk their dogs in there. The city code does require that the dogs, if they're in the cemetery, be on the leash, and the state law requires that the people pick up behind them. Mm-hmm. But we seem to be having issues with that, and unfortunately, we're not in the cemetery all the day long watching and catching them.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things, the common courtesy, if someone's going into cemetery to use it for any purpose with regard to their dogs, that they need to pick up after their dogs. The dogs have to be on a leash. Mm-hmm. There was an effort and discussion at the city council level about banning dogs from the cemeteries in period. But the feeling was that they would first try and the modified the ordinance specifically ensure that there's penalties that can be involved if you go into the cemetery and you don't properly care your dogs with leashing them, and with taking care and picking up after them. So I think the city council is just hoping that works, so people can utilize the cemetery. because it is can be a place for contemplation. It could be a place for a walk. There's the other things. It's a quiet place. And sometimes there's not many places that you can walk where and feel as safe as you could in a cemetery. Yeah, so when the winter comes and you have snow out there, what do we do? Do we see? I guess we should talk about all seasons. Is there seasons of activities in cemeteries?
We actually plow out our cemeteries through the winter so that you have access into them. We also are one of the few communities in the Upper Valley that do winter burials. So we do burials all year round. We also store in the tombs for some of the other towns and other municipalities that do not do local burials.
Oh, okay.
So we do have that. The cemeteries, they try to get them at least primary access right after the storm and maybe the day after to get the rest of them opened up. Cemeteries are also closed at night, according to the city code. No one's supposed to be in the cemetery after 10 o'clock at night or before 6 in the morning. But they are open, they're ungated, so...
But people shouldn't be in there. I mean, a lot of this is about self-management, self-direction, and collectively reminding people as that we need peer pressure to make sure people don't do things they shouldn't do. And I think part of being a watchful community and a healthy community is to make sure that as a community, sometimes I've been in situations where you had neighborhood watches but just the people that live around the cemeteries, I know that we do have people that really involve in the cemetery. They're really fairly good about informing us of when things are going wrong or what's going wrong. Some people just adopt the cemetery and just keep working it all the time in terms of making sure that from their perspective the cemetery is taken care of. So do we get a lot of calls on cemeteries?
We don't have a lot of calls, but there are calls periodically. There are times when flowers go missing. People call complaining. They feel the cemetery crews have removed them. We don't remove flowers. Best thing to do is if you see somebody in the cemetery that's doing something that they should not be doing, call dispatch, police dispatch 448-1212, and advise them what you've seen. And if there's a vehicle involved, get the plate number. That helps, and a description of who's out there, because we do have problems with some individuals in the cemeteries.
I just want to remind everybody, use leb.com. It's on the website. If you have a comment about the show, you want to send something to me, use leb.com, lebconnect.com. It's on the front of the website. It's really the Lebanon connection for you. And if you have any questions about cemeteries, please send them in. In closing, lastly, if you have a question you want to answer on the show, send it by email to me and use the leb.com site. Just use leb.com and it'll come to me. I hope you stay cool and enjoy your summer, and I want to thank Earl for being here. And I hope you kind of enjoyed that. I know some of you might be like my wife and really would like to know more about the cemeteries. Thank you.